So joining me now is my friend and good friend of the show, Kris Sims of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. And I saw this post that you made maybe a week or so ago on X, and it was about just the savings that Albertans have over other parents when we send our kids back to school. Tell us about this.
Yeah, big time. So again, this is one of those things, you know, when people join like a new religion or they start a new diet or something, and they're the ones that can't shut up about it. So I'm that person because I moved
You're
here.
a CrossFitter.
Right, exactly. So I moved here from British Columbia where they stick PST on everything, including thrift shopped items and used cars. So they're really bad for that. Very mean to poor people. And I moved here to the wonderful land of Alberta that has no PST. So I have these fresh eyeballs on everything. Whenever I buy something and I wince a little at the till, it's not as bad as I was expecting for the tax because we don't have PST here in Alberta. And I really wanted to highlight it. Because as you know, Sheila, every now and then there's going to be some paper that comes out, some academic, some politician who intones in a musky way, you know, it is time for us to join the rest of Canada and get a sales tax in Alberta. No, we don't. So I worked out the math. On average, the average Alberta family saves over $50 just on the PST, non-existing here, just on back to school shopping. So I'm not talking about all the rest of the year. So that's big money. Across the whole province, if you add up the student population, that's around $20 million that families are saving.
So that's amazing. But, you know, we look at that as Albertans are saving money. But those are other families across this country being absolutely hammered by this. So you tack this on to the cost of living, you know, like it's more money to drive your kids to school. Busing fees are going up because of the carbon tax, which Justin Trudeau just didn't even factor into the equation. Other families in the country are paying $50 more than Alberta families. And I know how hard it is for an Alberta family to make ends meet, which, I mean, it's just atrocious.
It is. It's disgusting. And when you think about $50, I can get 2 backpacks for that for my kids if I shop smart. I can even get a pair of winter boots for one of my kids, new, for that kind of money. And then you start thinking you're right about the other families. So I'll use British Columbia as an example because it's pretty egregious for their costs. And also I have firsthand experience there. So they'll put PST, like I said, on everything from a brand new laptop. And, you know, an average laptop nowadays will run you around $300. Okay. That's an instant $25 charge, not including the eco fee and all that other nonsense that they stick on there. That's just PST. They put PST on almost all clothing, almost all books and pens and paper and supplies. Now, technically, in British Columbia, you can say, hey, these are tax exempt, but like a handful of people know that in British Columbia for school supplies, and almost no retailer knows about it. You have to stand there literally with your calculator and receipt in hand, like citing the law with the clerk. And even then, the poor clerk probably doesn't know how to give you PST exemption. And quite often, if you want to go all the way to the mat, you have to register like how many kids you have and how old they are and blah, 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 in order to even get their 7% PST back. And so if you start thinking about this as a family, and you start adding all of that up on the PST on pretty much everything except for fresh food, it's an outrageous burden on families. And it's when times come around, things like Christmas shopping, things like back to school, holidays, that's when it really shows for that price tag. And so I really wanted to highlight the difference that we pay here in Alberta. It is a real Alberta advantage, and also highlight how unfair this is in other provinces. And some of the things are just stupid. Like in Saskatchewan, you pay, correct me if I'm wrong, folks who are listening, it's 6% PST. You pay it on atlases, but you don't pay it on maps. In British Columbia, backpacks are taxable, but bags specifically designed to carry books are not. So it's one of these ridiculous bureaucratic maze hell tax code situations that just winds up costing people a ton of money. And we don't pay it here in Alberta, and we have to fight to keep it that way.
The CTF is something that I really appreciate, is because you take these like big complex tax issues, which are, I think, specifically complex. So you just throw up your hands and pay it. But you break it down by what it means to each individual family. So you've done calculations about how much your Christmas dinner is, how much it costs less in Alberta than it does in other provinces. And I think that's really important to not only help Albertans understand how important fighting to keep a PST out of our province is, but how important it is for other provinces to look at their own governments and say, wouldn't it be great if you gave us a little bit of a tax break here?
Yes, exactly. It is done on purpose. So if a bureaucrat or a politician can get away with telling you, oh, well, the carbon tax is 80 something dollars per ton, like your eyes glaze over. Nobody knows what the hell that means. I don't know what that means, really. It's like, honey, did you pick up a ton of carbon on the way home? No.
What is a ton of carbon? Like,
exactly.
What is a ton of carbon? Who knows?
Exactly. What is a ton of carbon? Can you even picture it in your head? Like, I kind of picture like a gigantic, like, earth mover truck full of like black stuff. And then what is it taxed based on? It's crazy. But if I tell you it's $15 per fill up of a pickup truck, there you go. That's a roast chicken and a jug of milk.
Right.
Fill it up twice. Now you're buying a turkey with some fixings. See how that helps? So it's the same thing with PST. So here in Alberta, on average, it's around $50 savings per family on the PST. And this is me cutting it in half. Okay, because there's Deloitte, which does this big survey every year for consumerism. And they actually estimated that the average Canadian family spends around $700 on back to school. And so the thrifty mama and me was like, that's really expensive. So I cut that in half. Say you spend $350. Okay, this is how much we're saving. So the average Alberta family saving around $50. What they're paying in Ontario, for example, is like $60 extra per family. Again, this is just for this little window of back to school shopping. Spread that kind of spending or saving out over the entire year, and we see why people in other provinces are struggling worse here than in Alberta. Now, I wanted to stress, though, I do know, and I hear you, folks in Alberta are still struggling, like a lot. Can I mention something? So it really annoyed me. So I've been friends with Rob Snow for a long time. He's a good friend of mine now. He's a mainstream media radio host. He has a national show. Way back in the day, we started working together in the early 2000s, like back when we had Blackberries and like still had cassette recorders for reporting. I was on there about a week or so ago with a Liberal strategist, well known in the Ottawa sector. You see her on TV all the time. And we were talking about the Trudeau government's cabinet retreat in Halifax. And I said, you know what? Keep your receipts. Because the last few retreats you guys have gone on, like in Charlottetown and Vancouver, have been stupid expensive and you're wasting money. And she snarkily said, oh, well, I guess they should just pack a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah, they should. They should also stay home because we have gigantic buildings in Ottawa that taxpayers already pay for. But you know what's stuck in my craw, Sheila? Is that peanut butter is a staple for food banks. Peanut butter is one of the things I have noticed between inflation and the carbon tax has gone up ridiculously in the last 3 years. I was at a store, mainstream store with a huge grocery section just yesterday. Peanut butter was $11, $10.99 for a 1 kilogram brand name jar of peanut butter. Not organic, standard, regular peanut butter. $11. I used to be able to get peanut butter on sale for $3.75 just a few years ago. And so that really annoyed me because she said in a really sarcastic way, oh, should we pack peanut butter sandwiches? Okay. Number one, we shouldn't be paying for lobster or whatever at these retreats. Number two, these retreats shouldn't be happening outside of Ottawa. There's no reason for it. And number three, read the room. Like, why can some of these folks not read the room? We've got record demand for food banks, and 50% of Canadians are within $200 of not making all their minimum payments. Why can't this set understand this?